Welcome back, I'm Streaky. Today I'm going to discuss something with you that I get told in the comments a lot. This topic is something that other pro mastering engineers have been giving me loads of stick for recently. The reason they don't like it is because I'm giving away secrets that they think they should keep to themselves. They think that by me telling you all this stuff that you're going to go out there and become mastering engineers like them. But the fact of the matter is, who cares who knows all of these tips? It's just good that basically I can share my knowledge with you. I don't see the point of me taking it to the grave. So for that reason, I'm going to tell you today exactly how pro mastering engineers get tracks sounding popping on radio, which now works for Spotify too. Right, let's tuck in. So here we are in Pro Tools. I've got a couple of tracks lined up. I want to show you this trick works on a couple of different tracks. So before I go on and play these tracks, make sure that if you like this kind of thing, press the like button below. Helps me out and it helps other people see this type of video, and so that it'll encourage me to do a few more for you. So make sure you press the like button now, and if you look down and you watch my videos often and you're not subscribed, please do me the favor and subscribe. Okay, let's listen to the tracks. More of a kind of guitar-y song, and then more of a kind of soundtracky thing. So let me show you exactly what I'm going to do. What we're going to do, we're going to get some definition out of this by really bringing the dynamics into the tracks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some EQ settings that really brings the dynamics back. Well, when I say dynamics, I mean if I was talking like this all the time, then it would become really dull and really flat, and really that's what I'm talking about with the music. That's why when I speak up and down, round, and so that things sound a little bit more interesting, a little bit more exciting, putting the emphasis in the right places. So this is what I'm going to do with the tracks. It's just going to make them a little bit more dynamic, so they're not as flat. Like, the balance is great, but they just need to have a little bit more dynamics. Now what this does, it actually, when they're played on systems, when they're played on the radio, especially when they're played on smaller devices that don't pick up like super low end and super high end, what these settings do is that they add the dynamics and they really make the ear more interested in the sound. And so what that subconsciously makes it feel a little bit more exciting and a bit more interesting. You'll see what I mean now. So I do this in a dynamic EQ. So I'm going to use the FabFilter Pro Q3. Now that is the sort of standard you want to. If you haven't got one of these, just get one. And I'm going to use this in linear phase and in high, just because that makes it sound really nice when we're doing this kind of thing. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm lifting the bass up. Now what I want to do, you'll see, is the low end. I'm just going to do this we're going to use MS EQ. Now, so MS is the mid and the side. So the sides being the outside and the mid being kind of the stuff that happens in the center. So we're going to put this at around 80 hertz, lift it by about a dB and a half, I'd say, and then make sure that it's in dynamic mode. It's a shelf. What this is doing is lifting the whole of the low end. So you can see that's going all the way up to about 500 there. So it's kind of the whole bottom end is getting lifted. It's on a shelf and it's also dynamic. So we're putting the dynamics so that it lifts the track as the kicks, and as things kick in, it's going to start pushing the track and making the low end bounce a bit. So let's just listen how that sounds. I'll show you on the other track. So you can hear the bass there is starting, the kick moves a bit more, it's got a little bit more thump to it. Now the next thing I want to do, and this is the important one, is again I'm on a dynamic EQ and I'm in the mids again. On the placement it's in the mids, but what I'm doing this time, instead of bringing that up so that every time the mids kick in it just goes up, what I'm doing is I'm going the reverse way round, and so I'm lifting the mids anyway, so the mids are coming up, but as the track kicks in and starts moving, you can see it's pretty much doing, it's going, the slope is around from about 100 to about 3K. And so what this is doing is grabbing the whole of those lower mids, and that's where we get some real sort of width and chunkiness. But what I'm doing is I'm putting that in, but as the track starts playing, it's going to start ducking them and moving them around. So it's just really moving the low mids. So it gets a really good load of dynamics going. And especially because I've lifted this here, it's not going to get muddy and murky, because what happens is if you lift the low end a lot, it starts getting really muddy around this frequency range here. So what you're doing is you're then ducking that down. As this is kicking in, that's ducking down, because that's going up, that's going down in level with the dynamic EQ. So let's listen how that sounds. So the best way to listen to this is to listen to the kick, the sort of low end, the stuff that's happening around here, around the 80 hertz. And that way you'll be able to hear the sharpness that this brings. Now, think about the transients, the attack, things that are happening really quickly and sharp. That's what's going to happen here. So let me play that and you'll hear what I mean. Listen for the low end, okay? And then you'll hear when it goes in and out what it's doing. So it's dropped to that bit, but you can hear what I'm doing there. Okay, now as a little finishing touch on this to really get things moving, I want to do something in the top end. I just don't want the mids and the low moving. I want the top moving too. So on the outside this time, so I'm going with the sides only. And what I'm doing is, as this is going all the way up from about 1K, and then it's going all the way up to the top, you can see the way that's working. And what this does, as this kicks in, it's going to just open up the sides so it feels a bit wider. So although here we're just doing the mid, the stuff that's happening in the center, we're then doing some little flash stuff that's happening at the top, which makes that sound less mono, because this is obviously going to make it sound more mono because we're pushing the mid frequencies. But with this stuff happening on the outside, everything doesn't sound as mono, but everything sounds like it's got more space. So it's got more space from this. It's also then got more dynamics happening because of what's going on in the mids, this ducking, and then this more sort of kicking in with more low end. We've got this kind of weird smiley face happening with a bit of ducking in the middle, which makes it all very exciting. So let me just play that across this track, and then I'll show you that it does actually work on the other track. But what you need to do, you might have to move these around. I'm not saying exactly what I've set up here is what you're going to use on every single track, but these kind of frequency ranges and this style of thing, move it around until it sounds right on the track you're working on. But yeah, listen to this. So you can hear that's all sounding quite exciting there. So let's listen to this track. A little bit more sort of mellow soundtracky. Let's listen to what it does to this. So as I said, I'll probably put a bit more mids in here. Maybe I'll stretch that a little bit wider. Maybe I'll give it a little bit more low end, because this track needs a bit more low end. So, and I might bring that back in a bit now that I've got that low end up a bit. I think I should have just put more low end in the first place. So you can hear how much more dynamic, how much more interesting that's sounding now. Same with the other track, totally different tracks, but I'm just using the same technique of making the tops a little bit wider, making that more exciting, bringing the bass up so it's got a little bit more low end, a little bit more sort of warmth, a bit more punch, and then this is really bringing the sort of the sharpness to the punch. So that's exactly how you'll get something sounding really exciting to somebody's ears, which really translates well onto radio and into Spotify. Now, if you want to go into a bit more detail on mastering, coming up next is a video on me mastering in Ozone. But a great thing to do after you've done this kind of thing is to glue it together with a kind of gluey compressor. So there's also a compression video coming up, so make sure you watch that. Make sure you like this video, make sure you subscribe if you want more industry insider tips. That's what I'm here to do. So I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.